PG to get that. Okay. I have no idea what that was about. No, that's the thing. It's like, it was weird. I mean, I was like, okay, Google's making fun of something I don't get, because, like, usually I get it. Like, I got the Pac-Man one. I usually I get them. I got the binary one. I get all of those. But, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I never really got it either. I always thought that to me, at least, the beauty or the elegance of Google was just the sparse nature of the page. Nothing on the page, nothing to distract you.
Well, and that was actually their early day philosophy. They're like, okay, do we just fill our page with ads like Yahoo did? They're like, no, we can't do that. Google needs to stay the simple page. The only thing I don't like is that bar on the top is hidden. I always forget it's there. Like, you know the bar I'm talking about. Like, because until you move your mouse or something, it isn't there. It's like, and I forget. I forget it's there. I forget that those functions are there. It's let's see. So yeah, it's like that'll be interesting. I think I think that's the real reason though the iAds got killed. The Mac versus PC stuff. Because I think somebody at Apple realized, it might be a bit hypocritical if we're adding a Microsoft search engine to our Apple device and we're saying Windows sucks as our primary marketing campaign.
That's interesting. I just read a story, and it's been about a week ago now, that Apple has, Google has basically said that they want all of their users to not use Windows machines, so you specifically have to get permission to use the Windows machine within Google.
Yeah. It's like they're only using.
Still there?
Yeah, no, I'm still here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay. I'll call you back.
Damn it.
Gotta love Skype.
Yeah, you really do. That's just I heard about that.
So I just think that's kind of odd that they would implement something like this.
Honestly, if I could do it,
Apple turns around and
embraces Microsoft,
like wanting to move away from Google and Google services. So.
Yeah, well, I get where Google's coming from. Honestly, if I could do it, if I could just completely chuck Windows at both everywhere, I would do it. And the reason is, it's like for about the last week or so, I have been dealing with we got at the office there, we have viruses, and there are those lovely viruses that have buried themselves in a way that the antivirus can't find them. So it's like, really, your only solution at that point is wipe the machine and start over. I mean, I know there's people who claim, oh, my virus tool will fix it, and it's like, but honestly, even if those machines find something in the safe mode scans, I really do think they just need to be redone, because it's like, and because of how Linux and Unix work differently, if you train people properly and you set proper permissions and other things, it's hard for you to get a worm to just go out of control in the system where, oh dear Lord, I have to redo every machine in this office. And I'm not blaming that on Windows. Well, I guess I am. But it's just one of those things. If you're in an area where you can get rid of that problem, you're going to. And there's other problems like that. I mean, who knows? Maybe Windows 8 will be a true multi-user Windows system, and Windows will finally embrace some of the advantages of Unix-like systems. I think it'd be a good mix, actually. You know, a majority market share and a true multi-user system where my computer doesn't automatically screw itself up now that I can't put in my own rootkit to keep it from fucking itself up.
Now, what version of Windows do you currently use?
Some machines I'm using XP, some machines I'm using Windows 7. I mean, honestly, I use Windows only when I have to. My primary OS is Linux.
Okay.
It's been that way for the last 3 years, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna miss stuff. I'm gonna miss Microsoft stuff. I haven't. I've for the most part, for I want to say 90% of what the average user does, it's not the same software, but there is an equivalent.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just the real learning curve is learning what that equivalent is called, and it's if you have the patience. What I did was I just said, okay, I'm not using Windows at all for 45 days. I'm going to make myself use Linux only. And I decided to do that. And every time I came across something, it's like for the first year, I was still using Winamp Underblind. I wasn't using Armach, which is it's great, but I wasn't using it because I was used to Winamp. And eventually, I said, well, okay, I've learned everything else. It's like, when I came across the software, I know it's this in Windows. Like, okay, what's the Linux counterpart? I found it, and I went from there. There's some specialized stuff that only exists on certain platforms, and when you're doing those things, it's like you're gonna pick Linux, you're gonna pick Mac, you're gonna pick Windows, you're gonna pick whichever one is the platform that's made for. I wish all of that stuff was cross-platform. We're just not in that world yet. And I know it's going to be available on the Mac before it's going to be available on Linux.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. I think for 80% of people, if you're not a gamer, any of them.
Well, not and gaming is going to be a non-issue soon. I mean, that's Steam, anything that's in Steam. So ValveSoft, some EA games, pretty much anything but Blizzard. And let's face it, Blizzard's on the Mac, and a lot of Blizzard games work fine with Wine. At least the ones you want to play.
Right.
And Steam's coming to Linux. There's evidence, actually, if you look at the source code of the Mac version of Steam, that they were either developed in parallel or the Linux one was developed first, but for obvious reasons, they released the Mac one first. Because that would get press coverage. I honestly don't think anybody but Linux fanboys is going to care when Steam comes out for Linux. But with that now making games largely cross-platform, and Steam's putting the momentum behind it to encourage developers to develop cross-platform, that'll be a non-issue. And more and more things like that are becoming a non-issue.
Right. You know, a lot of the games will just have to be rewritten. Mainly because of DirectX, and given Apple's use of the
but here's the thing: that's not as big a workload as people make it out to be. Because if we're honest, there's really only 3 or 4 engines for all the games.
Right.
There's the companies that make the engine, and they license that engine to everyone else. Like, for the most part, with few exceptions, every first-person shooter is using the Half-Life and Half-Life 2 engines.
Right.
There's a whole form of Quest games that are using the old Half-Life engine, just they doubled or tripled the resolution it was capable of, but it's that engine. There's not that many engines to rewrite. It's not like it's a mountain out of a molehill. We'll rewrite this engine and then it'll work for the most part. Especially since a lot of that stuff has been being done through Steam for years. Steam will automatically, they'll just have to teach Steam